It's an interesting and fine line that has to be negotiated between freedom of speech and hate crime. We already have laws on the books that say that you can't say certain things. I don't have the right to slander or libel anybody, of course. I don't have the right to discuss engaging in criminal activity with someone, even though I have freedom of speech. That's conspiracy. So there's already restrictions on what we can and cannot say. Thought crime is a little bit lunatic, and I think that it was deliberately lunatic in George Orwell, whereby you were punished for thinking a certain way based upon evidence such as a nervous tic or something like that, or just unorthodox behavior. The thinking was that guaranteed that you're starting to think the wrong way, which will lead to actual crime, overt crime. Therefore, you are to be punished because just thinking about doing something, you may as well have actually done it. As Winston Smith said, thought crime does not entail death. Thought crime is death. Might be political satire / science fiction, but actually in the Second World War, the Japanese actually had a police force called the Thought Police, aimed at policing how people organized their thinking. So there you are. But it is actually not as simple as we think. And where does, as the old saying goes, where does my fist end and your nose begin in this case? When is my right to freedom of speech violating your right not to be slandered, threatened, insulted, or whatever? Well, Canada right now is going through something called the Truth and Reconciliation process. It's something that was pioneered by an often overlooked fellow by the name of Desmond Tutu, Archbishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa, whereby a monstrous crime essentially was committed against Aboriginal children in Canada, where they were in the past, from I think it was the 1940s up until the 1970s, taken from their parents and sent to residential schools where they were essentially forcibly assimilated, or an attempt was made to forcibly assimilate them. And the institutions were rife with sexual, physical abuse, all kinds of horrible things that the children were put through at the time that they were put in there. And the problem is so big, it's so institutionalized, that it's being handled right now in the same way that apartheid was sort of handled by Archbishop Tutu. You have to, if you're one of the perpetrators, or if you represent one of the organizations that was implicated in it, you have to sit and listen to the stories of the victims of the residential school system. People get a chance at law to stand and face the person or the institution that may have ruined their life. And the people or the institutions who erred, or who were criminally negligent or otherwise responsible for the terrible crime that was perpetrated on the Aboriginal children at the time, have to sit and listen. And if a lot of those residential schools were run by church groups, and to these people, to be brought into that kind of situation and have someone tearfully tell them hour after hour how much they've suffered at that church group's hands, or, say the Anglican Church, the Catholic Church, whatever, that's a terrible sanction to these organizations as a whole. Something like that, if you ask me, could be set up in terms of dealing with hate crimes, whereby a hate crime, if someone is convicted of it, they are sanctioned in much the same way, say, as someone is sanctioned in the Truth and Reconciliation process. In other words, maybe you have the right to say what you said. But I have the right to explain to you how much that hurts and how much that has affected me. You're not going to go to jail, say, if you actually commit a certain type of hate crime. You're not going to face a fine or deportation or whatever. But you've got to sit there and listen to someone tell you what it feels like to be called whatever, racial epithet or homophobic epithet or Islamophobic or whatever sort of epithet. And this could go for anybody. This could go for any group. It could go for me as a white middle-class male who's essentially got it made. If someone commits a hate crime against me, I can drag them in front of the hate crimes tribunal, if you want to call it that, or commission. I guess commission is a little bit nicer than tribunal. How you would actually go about deciding who has to appear in front of one of these boards, well, that's a case of devil in the details. But it's just a thought. That way, the person has been sanctioned. They've been convicted, I guess, of a hate crime. They haven't suffered any actual penalties, but they have been, as it were, in a way, branded as someone who has, with their words or with their writing, harmed someone else's feelings or someone else's right to just live their life like anyone else. It's a pretty harebrained idea, but it is something that I've often thought about in terms of dealing with hate crimes. Thank you.